Hi, I'm Joe Oppenheimer, and today I'm going to talk about green homes and how they can unlock some of the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. Our homes are where we spend the majority of our leisure and family time, so if the old saying is true and change starts at home, then making our homes more sustainable might have a ripple effect into other parts of our society. As of 2020, it is possible to build green homes in Australia, yet most people are not choosing this option when building a new house. Over the course of this video, we're going to explore what green homes are and why more people should be building sustainably. So, sustainable development is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. That's the definition adopted by the World Commission on Environment and Development in 1987, and which has itself proved a sustainable definition as it's still in use today. So, what constitutes a green home? A green home is in essence a sustainable home, built to last, respectful of nature, and designed for the efficient use of energy, water, and building materials. The average Australian household creates significant environmental impacts. For example, the residential sector is responsible for 7.4% of Australia's greenhouse gas emissions in total, and there are other emissions that are related to our houses, such as transport emissions as we drive to and from home, the food that we eat, and the food waste from the food we don't eat and throw away. Australians have the highest per capita consumption of water in the world, using 100,000 litres of fresh water each year, and homes and gardens are responsible for 12% of Australia's water use. Also, urbanisation and development are leading causes of habitat loss. So, as an example, let's look at a breakdown of the average Australian household's energy use. 40% goes towards heating and cooling the space, 33% goes towards electrical appliances, 21% for hot water, 6% for lighting. Okay, so that's just an example to show that there are a lot of contributing factors, and they're all intimately related to the modern technologies we use in our homes and have come to take for granted. Both efficiency and mitigation can help to build more sustainable houses, which means looking at houses and finding ways to make them more efficient, as well as mitigating any emissions generated by replacing fossil fuel electricity with renewable energy. Now, the Sustainable Development Goals were adopted in 2015 at the UN, and here are the 17 SDGs. I'm going to quickly go through which of them are aligned with green homes. Clean water can be guaranteed by installing water tanks and water recycling systems at home, at a cost, of course. For clean energy, we can install rooftop solar and home battery storage, enabling us to save money while providing clean, reliable energy on site. For sustainable cities and communities, well, that's when people get together to pool resources and share and store energy together. They can also collectively nurture green common spaces and plan wildlife corridors around neighbourhoods. Green cities are built upon green homes, green buildings, and green transport. When it comes to consumption, green homes must be built with sustainable materials such as FSC timber, using recycled materials where possible, and incorporating renewable processes such as rain and solar power harvesting. Climate. Renewable energy generation minimizes domestic greenhouse gas emissions, while native gardens will absorb and store CO2 in the soil and vegetation. With a large enough green space, it is possible to offset not just yearly emissions, but historical emissions generated over a lifetime. Life below water. By recycling used water on site, the wastewater isn't sent off to a chemical treatment plant and then into the rivers and oceans. It stays on property, benefiting the garden and the aquatic systems downstream. Life on land. Native gardens can become conservation projects, fostering biodiversity and possibly providing space for iconic animals such as koalas, kangaroos, and kookaburras to visit. Now let's take a look at some of the environmental benefits of green homes. Green homes are built to minimize long-term environmental impacts. So, when the house is powered by enough solar and battery storage on site, the household is capable of negative CO2 emissions. This means the house is connected to the grid and is supplying someone else with the surplus renewable electricity. This avoids the emissions from fossil fuels that person would have generated. Now, when rainwater is collected and stored on site, the house doesn't need to rely upon municipal water, which requires laying pipes. And when water is recycled by a water treatment plant, it's the perfect supply of water for gardening and household use. This prevents wastewater from leaving the property. Using sustainable building materials means considering how sustainable and ethical the supply chain is, plus whether there may be any pollution or toxicity issues associated with the products. And a green home makes efforts to integrate any garden space with local and native ecosystems, which conserves our natural heritage, protects ecosystems, and stores carbon. So it's time to look at some of the outcomes of green homes, starting with the social outcomes. Green homes have a greater resilience from external shocks when water and energy is stored and generated on site. Houses designed for thermal efficiency produce comfortable, well-lit houses, and these have health benefits. For example, plentiful sunlight has been shown to have health benefits for residents, including enhanced mental performance. And native gardens that support local habitat and wildlife also foster a deeper human connection with nature. And don't forget that the ecosystem services that nature provides, such as fresh air and clean water, they're the foundation for human society, as well as most of life on Earth. Now, when it comes to the economic outcomes, green homes cost around 10 to 15% more to build than an average house, but they can save tens of thousands in operating costs over decades. And net zero houses can eliminate the cost of energy bills. Firstly, the cost of installing rooftop solar has fallen so much that it now pays itself off after just a few years. That's in Queensland. The price of home batteries is falling so much. It can currently pay itself off in about 10 years, but that's likely to fall a lot more as well. And you can also eliminate the cost of municipal water for household and gardening needs. And all of the above is how green homes save so much money over time, as well as because they're built to last and with maximum efficiency. If they have green spaces, they'll also be worth more than other houses if you sell them. To wrap it up, let's look at some of the key challenges for the uptake of green homes. Firstly, the wealthy and developed nations have an economic advantage because they can afford the latest technology. However, the pressures on developing nations may spur innovation, and they might be the ones to find the cheapest and best ways to put the puzzle pieces of green homes together. Next, almost a third of all Australians can't access green homes as they're renting or living in apartments or low-income housing. Many Australians live in energy-inefficient houses which can be expensive to retrofit. The national standards are planned to be overhauled in 2021 to mandate a whole-of-house approach, because until now one set of standards has been used to measure thermal efficiency, while another set of standards measures water, etc. This transition will have a big impact on what developers choose to put in a house. For example, electric hot water systems, which are currently the cheapest to buy but the most expensive to run. Also, land is expensive in urban areas, and this restricts the size of green spaces available for native vegetation and wildlife. Finally, socially, 98.5% of new houses are currently being built to the minimum standard of 6 or 6.5 stars in Australia. So, really, there's a lot of room to move. Maybe millennials will be more motivated to build green homes, as they could be more environmentally minded than their parents. We'll have to see. Here are the references for my paper. I hope you enjoyed it.